These are my first engineer boots. I have to be honest, engineers are probably not high on my list of want them boots, and I think you guys know that my preference is service boots. But as an entry-level engineer boot, one that's actually liked by Karl Morawski even, it's honestly an interesting boot to have in my collection. G'day, welcome back to Bootlosophy. My name is Tech. I recently went on a business trip, so I'll let Qantas do the acknowledgement of country in this video.
Welcome to Perth. Qantas would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the lands and waterways on which we live, work and fly. We would also like to pay our respects to elders past and present.
This is a pair of engineer boots from Mexican handmade brand Cordobes. As I said at the introduction, this is my first pair of engineer boots, and you can see that at the unboxing, I was excited but a little unsure. Now, I don't wear these a lot, mainly in the weekends when I wear them very casually. I'm still really figuring out what occasions I'd wear them and what outfits to wear. But I do know Cordobes, having got another two pairs of boots from them before, and I like them for that plucky type of small brand that tries hard to produce quality in a heritage handmade item. Now, they're based outside of Mexico City, and the founder, Alfonso, started making his own shoes because he couldn't find a pair made in the way he liked. While he was learning, he saw how the artisan footwear makers around his city of San Mateo Atenco were mostly making cheap shoes for the local market despite their obvious ability and experience. So in 2023, he started Cordobes to raise the standards of production to match the skills of his artisan workers and reach a more appreciative market and provide his craftsmen with a better and fairer wage. In doing so, he coupled his own dreams of making a heavily customizable product to satisfy the customization wanted by buyers, as well as building into the brand his own values of committed craftsmanship, customer comfort, sustainability, and a passion for the craft. In terms of customization, for example, in their cap-toe boots, you can choose the last shape, 3 types of outsole, 4 leathers, 4 matching or contrasting tongue leathers, toe structures, including whether you want a real second piece of leather toe cap, even laces and edge finishes. This is the type of purpose and values I like shown by these small boot brands. And if you want to know more about what I think about vision, values and purpose in business and in life, go and check out my other leadership, motivation and business channel on YouTube called techo.com. Right, so what is an engineer boot? It seems that they started becoming popular in 1930s America. I mean, there is some discussion that they came from English riding boots of the 17th century or military cavalry boots of the 18th and 19th centuries. But it was with the addition of buckles that what we now know as engineer boots emerged. The first brands that seem to have made them were Wesco and Chippewa, both of them still existing as heritage brands to one degree or another. There's a thread of history that says they were designed for train engineers, but another one says that they're really engineering boots for engineering work like surveying, operating excavators, that type of thing. Ads from the 1940s America seem to sell their use for management classes out in the field to protect their pants. In the 50s, of course, in came Marlon Brando, and they've been recognized as motorcycle boots ever since. If their distinction is the buckle, used at the instep and the top of the shaft to adjust for fit on what is essentially a pull-on boot, then they are also recognizable as coming in sturdy full-grain leathers, a mid-height shaft, taller than the 6-inch boot, but not as tall as a cowboy boot, and also generally a rounded toe box, and also generally taller heel lifts, although I chose these with a lower heel. Now, before we actually start this review, I want to tell you that I got these boots from Cordobes to review for free. I also have affiliate links which earn 5 to 10% if you buy it using that link. Now, recently I did a Q&A video and I realized that people think of me as an influencer and think that I earn lots of money from YouTube. In my opinion, I review, not influence. I think that I provide balanced information and my own opinion, not recommendations. Now, I may tell you that I love a boot or a brand, but I have consciously never recommended a boot to you. I own and run a very successful management consulting company, and I do not need that type of income to influence you on YouTube. Anyway, that is my rant over. Let's go on. So let's dive into construction. First, let me tell you that if you go to the Cordobes website using my affiliate link below, you'll see that there is a high level of customization available. So what I'm describing here in this video is based on the choices that I made. Now, starting from the bottom up, this pair uses a flat eco-rubber sole made in Mexico from heavy industrial waste. So recycling as well as keeping the carbon footprint down. It is a softer rubber compound, which is very comfortable to walk on and quite grippy. But due to the softness, maybe not as durable as say some popular Vibram rubber sole compounds. Next, how are the uppers attached to the sole? Now, this is a hand welted boot, but you can also get it in a stitch down version where the uppers are lasted and then flared out and stitched to the midsole and welt. In my case, this hand welting is a form of Goodyear welting. The uppers are lasted, but the edges are then tucked in rather than flared out. Meanwhile, the leather insole on the inside has a channel cut around the edge, which takes the place of a canvas glued gemming used for Goodyear welting. Now that channel raises a flap of leather, and that flap is stitched to the tucked in uppers and the inner edge of the strip of leather going around the boot called the welt. The outside edge of the welt is then separately stitched through the welt, the leather midsole, and the full slip sole rubber outsole. The combination of modern glues and stitching means that it's water resistant and durable. And this form of construction also means that it can be resoled when the rubber outsole wears down. All your cobbler has to do is to cut the stitches on the outside edge of the welt, peel off the rubber outsole, glue another one on, and then just stitch up the outside edge again. The leather flap on the insole used in hand welting also means that there's less likelihood of the otherwise canvas gemming kind of tearing off the insole. I'd like to point out in this case, it's what's called a 270-degree welt, meaning it goes around the front 3/4 of the boot. The back end is glued and nailed, and the leather stacked heel is attached using glues and nails. There are 3 leather stacks making up the heels, and none of them have been skived to form a slope, as you can see in some brands. I think this actually makes for a much more comfortable boot when you stand on it because you're not slipping down a slope. Now, because there is a 2 to 3 mil welt going around the edge of the front, this causes a cavity, and this is filled with cork. People say that this leather cork leather sandwich is the best form of construction because those materials mold to the shape of your own feet so that in time they form a personal orthotic sole. Inside, inserted between the heel and the ball of the foot, they glue a steel shank. That's a 10 to 12 centimeter long strip of steel that reinforces that gap, provides arch support as well as torsional stability. Just under your heel on the inside, they also glue on a heel to arch strip of leather for comfort and protection against the nail heads that's driven into the heel stack. The uppers are made from local oil tanned full grain leather, again sourced locally and keeping costs and carbon footprint small. Now, I like this leather. It's probably not the same quality, but in my hand, it feels very similar to the SB foot tanned timberjack leather used by Russell Moccasin. Like that timberjack, I suspect leather care is quite easy. Just use an oily type of conditioner like Obernoff's, or in my case, I've used the R.M. Williams leather and saddle dressing. The leather is about 3 millimeters thick, but feels very supple and soft. There's some pretty grain on the surface and shows a strong pull-up effect. Clicking is good, with no particular signs of any wrinkly loose grain. The signature buckles are solid brass, but if I have a criticism, then I wish this strap at the top was a heavier leather. That's the one I keep doing and undoing, and I think the leather will fray quicker. I hardly ever unbuckle that instep strap, and so you don't see wear on that strap as much. In order for you to open the shaft to get your foot in, there is a engineer boot characteristic of a V that's been cut into the shaft. backed by a triangular leather piece with the Cordobes logo stamped on it. The heel counter is leather, and in this case I asked for an unstructured toe box. The stitching all around the boot, on the uppers, the heel counter cover, and the vamp piece, as well as the welt stitch, they're all clean, very concise, very even. In my earlier reviews of Cordobes' service boot, I commented that the finish of the construction was rugged and basic. Well, in this pair of engineer boots, the stitching has improved tremendously, and the sanding of the heels and edging is unrecognizable from my first pair of Cordobes boots. They are obviously improving item by item. Now, if this is evident now, then I think they'll get better and better as time goes by. Being laceless boots, fit can be tricky because the last has to hold you in the forefoot and instep area and yet be loose enough to get your foot in. This can be a tricky balance between being in the boot properly and avoiding heel slip. Despite these being in the right size, there is a little bit of heel slip even after break-in, but only slightly more than being in a cowboy boot, say. And I have read somewhere that with cowboy boots, you should expect and accept up to ½ inch of heel slip as you walk, even after breaking in. I guess engineers are similar. In terms of sizing, I'd stick to your true size in this brand. Now, I measure 8.5 in D or average width on the US Brannock device. Actually, in width terms, because of the volume at the ball of my foot, not the width, but the volume, I'm verging on an E width. Now, for Brits and Aussies, this equates to 7.5. Stick true to size. Don't go down a half as you might for some American brands, like Red Wing, for example. On my feet, in 8.5 size Cordobes boots, both the heel to ball and the heel to toe lengths are great. The width, being a roomy boot, is also good. And underneath all that leather and cork and a bit of rubber squish, it's very, very comfortable. As for value, the Cordobes engineer boots will start at around 430 or 40 US dollars. As you customize, this may go up. This makeup that I have here, being hand welted, would have added 90 US to the price. What do you get for it? It is an entry-level engineer boot, since most engineer boots seem to sell for over 500 and 600 US dollars, and probably better made, let's be honest. But in that entry-level boot, you get a good leather that I like, it's well-made construction, you get a good fit and comfort underfoot. Materials are all leather with steel shanks and brass buckles, pretty good. I know this is my first engineer boot and I haven't had the opportunity to be, say, blown away by a Wesco or a John Lofgren, but I would expect to be blown away by those pieces because of those prices, I guess. For what you get in these, 400 plus seems reasonable and a goodish value to price ratio. That's it then. I do like the idea of an engineer boot, but in my lifestyle, I just continue to be a bit puzzled about where and how to wear these. Leaving that aside though, I like wearing them, at least as much as I like wearing cowboy or roper boots with high shafts, even if it's not that frequently, you know. And certainly once in them, I appreciate the feel, the sturdiness and the comfort. So there you are. I hope you liked the review, and if you did, remember, please click on like, and if you haven't yet, I hope you'll subscribe. I recently hit 25,000 subscribers, so my next target is the 50K mark. Give me a hand. I'll be back next week with another boot review, so until then, take care of yourself out there, and see you soon.